right, I think it's time to talk about something that's on my mind. And I'm going to go right off the cuff here. I have some stuff in front of me, obviously. Before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and of course, if you like me, follow me on all social media at JKBogan. But got to be honest with you guys, Russell Wilson, finding out he's getting benched for these contract purposes, these incentives and things like that, whatever it is, $38 million they're going to pay him if he plays another game or two. I gotta tell you, I'm not going to let this thing go just untouched. Look, I have no issue with Broncos fans, but I also said this trade was going to be terrible from the get-go. Russell Wilson showed signs of decline his last year in Seattle. They knew what they were doing. But that's not why I'm making this video, because this is a Rams channel. I'm making this video because I was told when the Rams got Matthew Stafford by a lot of people, Matthew Stafford is Stat Padford. They're not winning in the playoffs because he's 0-3. Matthew Stafford is an elite quarterback like Tom Brady. Brady goes to the Bucs, immediately wins the ring. Let's not, factor in the fact that Tampa Bay was already pretty well figured out and they were a quarterback away. Not taking anything away from Brady, but let's give the Buccaneers some more credit than we do. So I love that, Brady goes to Tampa Bay. By the way, they didn't trade for him. He just went there. And then the Rams trade for Matthew Stafford. And now all of a sudden, both of them went back-to-back Super Bowls at their home stadium. And now you have teams like the Broncos who are like, oh, well, we'll just trade for Russell Wilson. We'll do the exact same thing. So the Broncos are now looking at their second straight season with Russell Wilson not making the playoffs. Did they win 5 games last year? I don't have it in front of me. They didn't do well. He was terrible last year. This year, I'm actually on his side. I think he should file grievances against this team. They're sitting him so he can't get his money. Think about that. He's been one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC. That might not be saying a lot for some, but give the guy at least some praise. The point, though, remains the same. See, it was basically thought of that when the Rams won with Matthew Stafford, it went away from, oh, he's Stat Padford. He can't win the playoffs. The Rams mortgaged their future. Jared Goff deserved better. It went from that to then just ignoring it. Oh, they won a Super Bowl because they went all in. They got Von Miller and they got Odell Beckham Jr. Okay, they signed Eric Weddle out of retirement. They had about as many injuries as any team in the league at that point. No Robert Woods. Their offensive line was intact. Their quarterback was intact, and Cooper Kupp was intact. Aside from that, they're starting Eric Weddle. They're starting Troy Reader. They're starting Traven Howard. I mean, they're starting their fourth string tight end. That's right. They lost. Not only did they lose Tyler Higbee going into that game for the year, they also lost Blanton at the beginning of the game. And they lost Johnny Munt earlier in the season. So they were down to their fourth tight end and their last tight end on the roster. All their running backs were injured. Cam Akers had barely played all year because of a torn Achilles. I mean, Darrell Henderson played in the Super Bowl with a high ankle sprain. Sony Michel was banged up. Then you look at defensive side, and you lose Jordan Fuller, who's a captain on your defense. I just don't think it's never been fair. I think it's why, the people that vote on Super Bowl MVP wouldn't give it to Stafford. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to throw 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl and not win Super Bowl MVP. Why do you think? Because they didn't want to have to admit that they were wrong about him. It has nothing to do with the fact that Stafford threw 2 interceptions. They weren't his fault. He gave Van Jefferson a shot to go up and get it. It didn't happen. And then he threw it right to Skoranek, and Skoranek flipped it up to the other team. He threw 3 touchdowns. He didn't have OBJ the whole game. And he had to go down the field. And, anyway, the point is, Stafford has always had this weird thing against him. And it's just funny how you watch. The last time I checked, the Bucs have a Super Bowl, right? With Tom Brady. Okay. That's what I thought. And the Rams have a Super Bowl with Stafford. So now, fast forward, it is now December 27th. and it is 2023 still. And Diana Rossini has reported that Russell Wilson is expected to be cut. Not only that, he's been playing the last 2 months knowing he's not the future. So this trade was abysmal. I knew that. I think a lot of us knew that, right? Pretty bad trade. James Palmer broke it down, NFL Network. If this offseason the Broncos part ways with Russell Wilson, a post-June 1st release would divide the $85 million in dead money over 2 seasons. $35.4 million next year and $49.6 million in 2025. So here's the deal. They're going to have to pay him $85 million. That's dead money they're not getting back. The fact of the matter is this. They can split it up all they want. This trade is an absolute failure and always was a failure. Who thought this was going to be a good trade when it happened? Not me. I went on every show I could and said this was a bad trade. I wanted to get it out there because I hated it. This was, and look, I'm not even going to give him credit. This was pure ignorance that the Broncos saw what the Rams did with Stafford. They saw Brady with Tampa. They didn't do it. This wasn't about Brady. Brady signed. They saw that Stafford won a Super Bowl in LA, and they're like, wow, Stafford can win a Super Bowl in LA, and LA could win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, then maybe this is the way to go. Forget developing Drew Lock or anything like that. Let's just go out and get Russell Wilson, who's already shown signs of decline, and the team that he's been on his entire career wants to get rid of him for a journeyman backup quarterback in Geno Smith. Didn't it occur to you that something might be up? Well, again, not trying to hate too much on Russ because I think he's played pretty decently this year. However, the full roundup of the Russell Wilson trade. The Broncos got Russell Wilson. They also got Ioma Uwazurike, a 2022 fourth-round pick. In exchange from Seattle, Seattle gets Drew Lock. So say what you will about Drew Lock. The second-round quarterback that you just didn't bother to develop. Noah Fant, their first-round tight end you just gave up on. Shelby Harris, a locker room guy. Charles Cross, a blindside protector for Geno Smith. Boye Mafe, that guy had a sack every single game of the season up until I think week 8 or 9. Tyreek Smith, okay. Devin Witherspoon, one of the best corners in football already. And Derek Hall, a 2023 edge defender who's, was drafted in the 37th overall in the second round. He could end up having a really good year. He could end up having a really good career. So, look, you could say, well, not too many guys stand out aside from Witherspoon. Then you'd be really sleeping on Boye Mafe and what he's done, and Charles Cross. I mean, Charles Cross is their blindside protector of the future. I mean, this is a really good haul by the Seahawks. This is a really bad trade by the Broncos. But today, I'm not hearing enough, wow, the Broncos mortgaged their future. No. I only hear that about the Rams. I don't hear it about Tampa. Tampa could go out and get whoever they want because they have Tom Brady. They're justified. Tom Brady's 44, 45, 46. They can go out and get whoever they want. They're not mortgaging their future. To be fair, the Bucs are looking at a division title, and Baker Mayfield has them on the right course. But the gripe isn't with Tampa. The gripe is with the media and people who constantly use, well, the Rams mortgaged their future, the Rams went all in, and yada, yada, yada. And I remember specifically, there were guys on ESPN saying a trade of Jared Goff wasn't going to happen. It's impossible. They laughed at it. Then they made it happen. They made those people on ESPN and other networks look like fools. And now instead of admitting that they were wrong, now they're like, I can't believe you would do this to Jared Goff. He's led you to a Super Bowl. This is no right way to treat a quarterback. You got to be out of your mind to think that. Or you just weren't watching the games and you didn't see how clearly Jared Goff wasn't going to be enough. They needed to get another guy. And it wasn't Sean McVay. You can't say Sean McVay failed Jared Goff because before Sean McVay, Jared Goff was 0-7 and looked like a perennial bust at the number 1 overall pick. Jared Goff looked bad. And then Sean McVay came into the picture and he looked really good. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. He's not a great quarterback, but he's a good, solid quarterback, good quarterback. He did just lead the Lions to their, division win. Got to give him his praise. But that was the thing. At no point were the Rams applauded for going out and getting Stafford. It was, how do you do this? This shows that Sean McVay's weak. Yeah, it doesn't show Kyle Shanahan's over with the 49ers can only work with one type of system style quarterback, one archetype. It's either Purdy or Garoppolo or Darnold. Notice couldn't make Trey Lance work because he works off script. He works outside of what Kyle Shanahan wants for his system. Who knows what Stafford would have done? Does Stafford even fit the system? I don't know. The point is, you can't say that, oh, well, Sean McVay failed Goff. It's not how it works. But again, the issue I have is that it was really loud when the Rams did it. It was really loud. The Rams did this, they did that, they mortgaged the future. Oh my God, the Lions won the trade. And then guess what? You know this story. The Rams end up getting the Super Bowl and Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, is still playing. He's probably playing the best football of his career right now and could go into Detroit if the season ended today and beat the Lions in the playoffs. The Lions got Jared Goff. They got Afadu Melifonwu. They got Jamison Williams, Josh Pascal, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Broderick Martin. That is an excellent haul. Absolutely excellent. Great drafting. Like, that is outstanding drafting. All those guys are difference makers, or most of them, except for Broderick Martin, I would say. No offense to him. Melifonwu's playing as well as I expected him. Jamison Williams was the best wide receiver in that draft class. Pascal's a beast. Jahmyr Gibbs is, electric running back. Sam Laporta is one of the best tight ends in football already. And Jared Goff is a top 10, top 12 quarterback. Okay. I'm not saying that the Lions lost the trade. There can be two winners. It definitely helped. But the way that this was originally framed was that the Rams mortgaged their future. And they did not. Now, it's December 27th. The Rams have a Super Bowl. 2 years later, they potentially will be going back to the playoffs. They were 4-0 with Matthew Stafford in the playoffs 2 years ago. Last year, it took a bevy of injuries for them not to make it. And Denver still hasn't made the playoffs with Russell Wilson. So you ask yourself, were they too hard on the Rams? Because they absolutely were. See, the talk about Stafford and everything, Russell Wilson signed that big deal with the Broncos. I mean, they knew what they were getting into. They did anyway. Now they just told us today they would rather sit him with a chance to go to the playoffs and play Jarrett Stidham than play him and owe him money. They're already done with him in year 2. Look, if this doesn't show you that what the Rams did isn't easily copyable or whatever the hell you want to say, replicable, I don't even know. It's not easy to be replicated. We need to stop acting like, oh, the Rams just went all in. They just did this. I mean, okay. And, let's look at the brotherly shove / tush push. Everyone says, oh, well, you just do that the whole game. Yeah. The Eagles are practically unstoppable with it. And then you complain that, oh, well, the Rams did this, but they're the only ones that are able to win the Super Bowl that way. It's amazing how 2 years ago the Rams won the Super Bowl. And since, we've seen teams be more interested in going all in. More trades. It's become more like the NBA. Now, the Broncos are probably going to miss the playoffs. So, big trade for Russell Wilson, missing the playoffs. Not ideal. How about Deshaun Watson? So they trade for Deshaun Watson, the Browns do. They pay him all that money, And Joe Flacco has them playing better than they ever looked with Deshaun Watson. So again, it's not as simple as it looked. It's taken for granted what the Rams did. And it's still being taken for granted what the Rams did. And you shouldn't be allowed to get away with saying they mortgaged their future and they went all in and they made a super team while they're knocking on the doorstep this weekend to clinching another playoff berth and getting back to the playoffs. You shouldn't be allowed to just get away with that scot-free. You should be held accountable for that. Because that was poor analysis. And there are a lot of people that are guilty of that. And I'll say this right now. The 49ers, I'm looking at you. If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, they have built a super team. You can't be serious. If you think the 49ers haven't been the closest thing to a super team, I don't know what to tell you. I don't believe they really exist, to be honest with you. But if there was a super team in a 53-man roster, it'd be the 49ers. I mean, look, Christian McCaffrey, best running back in the league. They got Deebo Samuel. They got Brandon Ayuk. They got George Kittle. They got Trent Williams. Then you look at the defensive side. You got Bosa, Hufanga. I know he got hurt, but still, you got Hufanga. You got Ward, Charvarius Ward, one of the better corners in the league. You got Greenlaw and Warner, Arik Armstead. Then you go out, you get Chase Young. You get Randy Gregory. Okay? You signed Javon Hargrave in the offseason. You spent $20 million on him. You go out and you sign anyone you want. Sebastian Joseph Day, you name it. If they don't win a Super Bowl and we don't hear that they went out and they tried to get a super team and they tried to do this and they tried to do that, it's ridiculous. But that's what's going to happen. Because for whatever reason, people are jealous of the Rams the way they won. It goes against traditional team building. And now look at what they're doing without all of that. Makes you wonder. This Rams team knocking on the door, making the playoffs. And here they are. I think people wanted to be right so bad that they celebrated that they were the worst team in NFL history coming off a Super Bowl win. They won the fewest games. People celebrated that. People were excited to see the big bad fall. Oh, well, they went out and got OBJ and Von Miller. They deserve it. And now here they are. And there are a lot of people that can't handle it. They don't think it's fair. They don't think the Rams should be back this quickly. But yet, we don't hear anything. We don't hear mortgaging of the future when it comes to the Broncos. We don't hear anything about the Browns and how good they could be if they got a decent quarterback, didn't give up all those picks for Deshaun Watson, had the defense they had that cap space to spend on anything else. We don't talk about that. The 49ers, the fact they haven't won the Super Bowl, and I mean, before I was born, we don't talk about that either. If they don't win this year with what they've done, just saying, man. Look, it's one thing to say you have concerns. It's another to talk like you know the whole story and you see the whole picture. Most of these people talking about the Los Angeles Rams don't watch half of their games in a season. I can already tell you that. They're the same people that said this team was devoid of talent. They're the same people that said this offensive line was terrible. They're the same people that said Matt Stafford is going to retire. I mean, Mike Lombardi, no shame in the world, went on Pat McAfee and said the Rams were basically shopping Stafford. They were trying to get his contract off the books a year after paying him. That's what they're trying to do. All right, guy, whatever you say. But yeah, I felt like making a video. I didn't really have a direction I wanted to go with the video. I just really feel like it has to be said. You have all these people that are so quick to say this and that about the Rams and question their Super Bowl ring. And it's funny how now everything's a Mickey Mouse ring. You know, it's not even the bubble anymore. It's not, you know, the COVID season. Now it's just anything. Oh, well, my team didn't win, so that must mean it's an asterisk. No, it means you're a loser. That's what that means. You know, participation trophy award winner. That's what that means. The fact of the matter is that people don't like that the Rams aren't dying. Okay? Sorry. Hate to break it to you, that's what happens when you go out and get Sean McVay, who at age 30. Every team had a crack at Sean McVay. A lot of teams thought he wasn't deserving. They thought he was too young. You had a chance at Sean McVay. You also had a chance at Les Snead. The Rams got Les Snead when they had Jeff Fisher. He's been around for a long time. You had a chance at both. Both of those guys are doing very well. Another big thing is Stan Kroenke staying out of football affairs. He's got the money. He'll fund it. He'll fund the project, but he wants to make sure he has the best guys. He's going on, and he's hiring the best guys possible to do the things he doesn't know how to do. That's what a good owner does. So, Broncos, who knows? The Waltons own you now. I don't know what's going to happen. Russell Wilson won't be. That's all I know. Russell Wilson, number 3, will not be under center next year. That's what I know. And I know that it's been an unfair thing. I know Rams fans are tired of it, and I feel you. And I feel like there needs to be something that needs to be said because, just the difference of opinion, winning just keeps people off your backs, unless you're the Rams. Then Sean McVay going to 2 Super Bowls at by age 37 isn't enough. We're still talking about him. It's funny. Anyone else in the league get picked on the way this Rams team does, coaching staff-wise? Anyone else in the league have a team get more ready to play a team than the Rams? The game plan, things like that. Is there a team in the league like the Rams who can be as consistent as they were and have people being shocked that they didn't go 4-13 this year, despite the fact they have a 13-3, 11-5, 12-5, 10-6, all those in the Sean McVay era, 9-7, all those seasons. Despite the fact he turned them from 4-12 to 11-5 overnight, and people are still shocked that this team is good this year. They're shocked that this team is competitive and they didn't win 3 games. It's remarkable, guys. It is absolutely remarkable. I'm not trying to say Rams versus the NFL. I'm not trying to say anything everyone's out to get the Rams. But it is funny, isn't it? It is funny how we never hear, it's all about just winning. Like when you talk about the GOAT conversation, Brady won. That's all that matters, right? Well, the Rams win a lot of games. Yet they're the team that's always under fire. I mean, Bean, the GM for the Bills, was like, yeah, we're not trying to, be like the Rams. All right. Whatever you say, man. I think the Bills are playing well as of late, but I didn't forget how idiotic that was. Then they went out and signed like 6 or 7 former Rams. They hired a former Ram. Whatever, man. It is funny to me because you have teams like the Chiefs who are having one of the most unacceptable stretches down to the end of the end of the wire. They could actually lose the divisional lead. They were up, I think they were 8-3 at one point. I mean, they are playing so poorly. But they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, and they have the attention. Taylor Swift's over there, and they have the commercials, right? The obnoxious State Farm commercials that play 20 million times a day. They have that all on their side. The Chiefs can have a bad year. It's okay. But the Rams, they have a bad year last year with a lot of injury, and everyone gets on their case. And there's still questions about Matthew freaking Stafford. And I'll never understand it. But again, is that as loud for the Broncos? Is that as loud for the Browns with Deshaun Watson? I know he got hurt, but Deshaun Watson wasn't great before that. I mean, I hope this gets through people's heads. I hope people realize what the Rams did is not easy to replicate. Okay? It's not easy. It's not like they found some loophole and cheated, okay? It's not easy. What the Rams did was impressive. And they're now doing it a completely different way, and I don't even think I think this is unprecedented, to be honest with you. To have $75 million of dead money being paid to guys that aren't on the roster and still make the playoffs. If they do that, this is unprecedented, I believe. Maybe it's not, but right now, people are talking about it, Everyone's talking about how, great the Rams are right now, how scary they are, but they're not talking about the fact of the matter is that a lot of those people were wrong. You were wrong. You're not loud now. You got away with it because people didn't call it out, but you were wrong. Stafford was a great move. It was a necessary move. The Rams won the Super Bowl. They didn't lose the trade. They didn't mortgage their future because here they are 2 years after, and they're fine. They're in better shape than most teams. They're going to have about $50 million in cap next year before restructures and things like that. Meanwhile, you got the Saints. No one's talking about the Saints. Like, are you kidding me? They went out and get Derek Carr, and this team's probably going to miss the playoffs, and they're $88 million over the cap. The Chiefs, they still have to pay Chris Jones. They still have to pay Nick Bolton. They need to get a receiver. Travis Kelce, he's starting to hit a wall, it looks like. What are they going to do? I mean, it's just funny to me. It's pick and choose. And that's the way I guess it's going to be. So, yeah, I'm going to call out the Broncos for making a terrible trade that was bad at the time and should absolutely be laughed at. But furthermore, I'm going to call out the media for not saying they mortgaged their future for a quarterback that's been sacked more times than anybody in the National Football League actively. Yes, I'm going to call that team out for paying the same price the Rams paid with Matthew Stafford. I'm going to call it out because it wasn't a good trade. And it was a bad decision. And it hurt their team. It's a big reason why they're probably not going to sniff the playoffs this year. They didn't last year, and they might not next year. They also traded for a head coach. I don't care if it was Sean Payton, who's overrated, by the way. That team never gets the blame. That team never gets... They lost... They gave up 70 points this year in a game. 70. They turned things around, sure. Yeah. But look at this, how this organization's been run. You don't hear anybody calling them out. You don't hear anybody calling out these teams. I mean, like the Packers barely won anything with Rodgers. Russell Wilson didn't win. He won one Super Bowl with the Seahawks. One. I mean, Stafford tied all those guys 2 years ago. The moment he stepped on a team that could win it. I don't know, man. I'll say this. I'm glad. I'm glad that finally people are starting to realize that coaching matters, that the structure of your front office matters, and ownership matters. If the Rams were owned by somebody who was constantly sticking their nose where it doesn't belong and they didn't know anything about the game of football, they wouldn't be in the position they're in. That person might have already fired McVay. That person might have looked at last year and said, nope, we got to move on. You have no idea. Having an owner that just foots the bill, that's what you need. Having a GM that's not afraid to get shit done, that's what you need. Having a head coach that can be a teacher of the game and a motivator, and anyone I've ever talked to that's been around Sean McVay, a true leader and one of the best coaches in the league. I mean, Sean McVay is a top 3 coach in football now. And the question is he number 1? The job he's doing this year, psh. But again, they mortgaged their future, guys. They mortgaged their future. They gave up the farm for Stafford. They gave up the farm for Ramsey. They'll never recover. Oh, what's that? They got a first-round pick this year. They got a first-round pick this year. They didn't give up a first-rounder for Sean McVay. They actually got him free of charge. And he's a better coach than Peyton has ever been right now. What else was that? Oh, yeah. They didn't have a first-round pick last year. They still found Puka Nacua, who's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year if the voters know what they're talking about. They found Kyron Williams the year before that with no first-round pick in the 5th round as well. But yes, keep sleeping on this team. Keep discrediting what they do. because they're doing it better than anyone else in the league. It's why just like that, you can have a bad year, all sorts of injuries, not going to win many games without your starting quarterback and third and fourth string offensive linemen. But you come off that bad year, and just like that, you're 8-7. You have a chance at the playoffs in the last 2 games of the season. Despite paying $75 million to players not on the roster, getting rid of tons of stars and everything, tells you all you need to know. This team isn't going anywhere. They're only going to get better. They're going to be scarier. The one thing they'll have to cross that bridge when they cross it is with Matthew Stafford. How long will he play? I think he plays until he's 40, but I could be wrong. If they need to get to it sooner, okay. But we saw what happens when it's done right, when you trade for the right guy, and we've seen now the opposite. So that's all I got for you guys. Big, long rant. I feel like it was overdue. But yeah, that was on my mind. Just seeing everything that transpired, it just feels like the Rams are held to a different standard, which I kind of find funny. But yeah, like I said, man, they really mortgaged their future. Really sucks that they're not going to have a first round pick this year. And, it really sucks that they've only won 2 games like the Panthers. Oh, wait. Exactly. So that's all I got for you guys. You can follow me at JK Bogan on all social media. Yeah, you guys take care. Later, folks.
Start playing Pick'em or Weekly Fantasy for any sport today, Jake. Users will receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 if they use promo code OTE at sign up. Start playing Pick'em and Weekly Fantasy Football today with Underdog Fantasy.
Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.